name is Sam Norgah, and I work with the Plan International African Union Liaison Office based in Addis Ababa. So the child-friendly version of the charter, I mean, if you remember, the African Children Charter was 30 years in 2020. And as a charter for children, we thought it will have to reflect what children understood within the charter, but also making sure that was available in the content that was friendly to children. And so Plan International and Save the Children, Pan-African Liaison offices came together. We worked with a committee first to understand the need to have a child-friendly version of the charter. We work with children to design the content. We work with children to look at the images that are in it. We work with children to look at how it needs to be presented. So what you have is a charter that reflects a document that was produced with children for children. It's meant to make the charter available. It's meant to make the charter accessible. It's meant to make children have access to the document, which defines what obligation their countries have towards them and what responsibility the children themselves have under the charter. We had a three-stage process. First was identification of what needed to go in. I mean, the charter itself is quite a big document, so what needed to go in. Second was identification of children who will be part of the process of identifying the content of the charter. The third one was the actual design of the charter. It took about 18 months from start to finish, where we had children from 5 countries across the 5 regions of Africa, Mozambique, Cameroon, all the countries, but we had the children come together. They sat with the researchers first to understand from a children's perspective what would they want to see in the charter. Once that was done, the charter was developed. We had a very draft version of the charter. We then did a validation with the children after they've told the researchers what it was that they wanted to see. So the validation was done and then was presented to the committee to let them know what we have designed. Now, once that process was done, we had comment from the committee, we had comment from other people. We went back to the researchers, we incorporated all the changes and then developed what we now have as the very final version of the charter. Again, we had to go back to the children in selected countries to validate in terms of the content, the color, and all of those. So that is what the processes we undertook to come up with the charter. So the charter, the original charter defines state obligations to improve the quality of life of children. And it sets the basis for holding government accountable to their obligations under the charter. What makes it very important is that it defines government response to issues facing children, whether it's education, whether it's health, whether it's protection. That is the state's obligation towards children. But what is very important about the child-friendly version of the charter is that it makes it very easy for children to understand the various articles within the charter. The articles 1 to 31, which is basically the rights and also the obligations of for children under the charter. It's also important because then it allows children to be able to hold their government accountable to the provisions under the charter, but also children also know that they have a responsibility as children under the charter. That's a good one, and that's a tough one. As member states, they've signed up to the charter. So the first obligation of implementation lies with government. As AU and also as organizations, Plan and others who have been involved in this process, there are 3 things we do. One is that we raise awareness about the existence of the charter and the need for government to respect their obligations. The second thing we do is to work with government. We lobby government. We do a lot of advocacy about provisions under the charter that we feel is not being implemented. The third thing is that government report to the African Committee of Experts on the Right and Welfare of the Child. And through those reports, we are able to assess the progress being made by government in the charter. The committee generates a document that we call the conclusion of the vision. And in that document, we are also able to see what recommendations have been made to government and work with partners through our offices to, one, remind government of the recommendations that have been made to them, but also draw their attention that they have a responsibility towards their citizens. The other thing we also do is that the committee also undertakes visits to the countries. And so when the committee is going to various countries, we go with them. We try to see how governments are implementing those recommendations that have been made by the committee. I was talking to the team that was working on their manifesto, and I said, the foundation of the continent are the children. The children are the driving force for our development for the future. And so unless we invest in children, unless we provide opportunities for them, unless we provide spaces for them to grow and develop, the continent is not going to have a future. And so our plan for children is that we need to invest in them. We need to empower them. We need to provide them with resources and other avenues for them to be able to discover themselves. We need to improve on education, because education is key in making sure that children develop. We need to address the issue of gender norms that also hamper the development of children, particularly that of girls. We have programs that invest directly in children. We have programs that acknowledges the potential that children have for them to be able to be change agents. And so that is what we do as an organization. But broadly, we also work with governments. Because like I said, government has the primary responsibility of making sure that children under their jurisdiction do develop. And so we work with government to help in making sure that government are implementing their obligations under the charter. So this is what I want to tell children. Children are not the future, they are the present. We are preparing children, and they're preparing themselves to be able to engage and to make the continent that we all aspire to be that African that is fit for children. We believe in the capacity of children. We believe that children have the skills and the experience, if harnessed, to be able to take over from what adults are doing now. We'd want to encourage children to be accessible. We'd want to encourage children to take their education seriously. We'd want to encourage them to be change agents, because they are what the continent aspires to have. And if we talk about African fit for children, or if we talk about the African that we want, it's the African where children are empowered to be able to stand up for themselves.